Good evening, everyone. Please take your seats. Good evening, everyone. Please take your seats. I call to order the July 9th, 2019 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please?
Council members Agajanian.
Present.
Devine.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. Councilmember Devine, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Will. Please stand. Join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for this evening's invocation. This past week, our nation celebrated the anniversary of the adoption of our Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress. July 4th has come to mark the date of our nation's birth, although the seeds of liberty and freedom were sown in the spirit of the colonists long before anyone put pen to parchment and made any official declaration. We owe a great debt to our founders who had the courage and foresight to risk their lives and the lives of their loved ones in defiance of the authoritative rule of the King of England and to found our great nation. Tonight we draw inspiration from the words of one of those great founders, Benjamin Franklin, a man who, although never served as president, but had an impact on our nation's history and legacy no less than those of Washington, Adams, or Jefferson. He wrote once that, quote, "The best thing to give your enemy is forgiveness, to an opponent tolerance, to a friend your heart, to your child a good example, to a father deference, to your mother conduct that will make her proud, to yourself respect, and to all others charity." Let us pray and remember these words as they are important for us today as they were for the days when they were written, a universal code for living a life well lived. Let us forgive our enemies, show tolerance to those with whom we disagree, help our friends and be charitable towards our neighbors, all without compromising what makes us uniquely American. Let us pray that our nation continues to prosper and be a beacon of hope in the world, and for our brave men, to the brave members of our community serving in our armed forces, we pray to keep them safe from harm as we continue to pray for peace among all nations and people tonight and always. Amen.
May we have your report?
The agenda for the July 9th, 2019 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Wednesday, July 3rd, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Before we go to item 3, ladies and gentlemen, especially those at home, do not adjust your TV set. You are tuned in to the current Glendale City Council meeting. We are joined as the fifth member of the band has finally joined us, and that is none other than former Mayor and Council Member Frank Quintero. We're glad to have Frank on board. We've got some tough issues ahead of us in the next 6 to 8 months, and I'm very glad to have a skilled and steady member back on the council to help us lead this city. Mr. Quintero.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I wrote a few words, and I'll be brief. I want to thank all the council members and the mayor for having confidence in my ability to serve out the remainder of Mr. Sinanian's term. I'm very comfortable sitting on the dais this evening. It's going to be a stretch to say that I'm happy to be on the council this evening, but I'm certainly comfortable. And I do look forward to working and interacting with the council, the staff, and the residents of Glendale. We have multiple issues to resolve in the next 8 months, but I'm without a doubt feel that working together as a city, I'm confident that we'll do what's best for all the residents of Glendale. We're all fortunate to live in a great city. And then finally, let me say that I'm not going to be a candidate in the March election, and I won't be endorsing or campaigning for any of the candidates. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's actually great to see so many familiar faces, and not just the employees, but also other residents that have called and touched base with me. So I'm looking forward to the next 8 months working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero. Let's move to item 3, please.
The presentation and appointments, 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, July 16, 2019. Mr. Mayor and Council, the regular Housing Authority and City Council meetings for July 16, 2019 have been canceled. The next regular meetings are scheduled for July 23rd, 2019.
Thank you. Next item.
3B is Mayor's commendation for Cruise Night sponsors.
Thank you. Will the Greater Downtown Glendale Association please come forward? Are there any other sponsors of Cruise Night here tonight?
Mr. Mayor, this is our naming sponsor for the event this year. So we have invited the Greater Downtown Glendale Association and Mr. Rick Lemo to accept the commendation this evening.
I'm glad he could make it this year. I know he had some obligations in prior years. Yes, Mr. Lemo, congratulations. Would you like to say something about Cruise Night and your sponsorship?
I'd like to say something very brief about our sponsorship. We used to be a new organization. We're now operating 6 years here in Glendale as the, what was the Downtown Glendale Association is now the Greater Downtown Glendale Association. And hopefully we're improving the city in many, many ways. And one of which is that we have the ability through the efforts of our board members and our assessees to be able to sponsor certain civic events, and we're proud to be sponsoring Downtown Cruise Night.
Well, thank you. And when is Cruise Night?
When is it? I think it's July 9th?
July 20th.
July 20th.
July 20th. That's a Saturday night,
Yes, sir.
and it starts at 3 p.m. Or a little.
I'd be happy to give you some
Yeah, let us know
wonderful
about
information. We're very excited to invite the whole community out and the council to the Glendale Cruise Night. It's our 26th annual event this year. It is on Saturday, July 20th from 5:30 to 10:30 p.m. And we will conclude the event as we have done for the past couple of years with a wonderful fireworks spectacular. We have live music and a couple hundred cars already registered for the event, so it's going to be a wonderful event, and we're so happy to have the Greater Downtown Glendale Association supporting us with it.
And one more thing.
Yes.
For those of us my age and older, we'll remember K-Earth 101. We have Brian Byrne, who many of us knew as Mr. Rock and Roll, who's going to be emceeing the event.
Right. Well, that's great. I know there's some great cover bands, and it'll be a great evening. So let me ask the newest and the senior member of the council to present this proclamation, this commendation.
Thank you. Be happy to do it.
You're going to hit, one of the requirements is that the new member hit the ground running. So there you go, Mr. Quintero.
They're going to make me work the next 8 months. So a mayor's commendation to the Greater Downtown Glendale Association. On behalf of the City of Glendale and the City Council, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation for your presented by sponsorship of Glendale Cruise Night 2019. Your commitment and support to keep this event alive and thriving is exemplary. Congratulations on being part of the 26th annual Glendale Cruise Night, 26 years. Signed by Aaron Najarian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Next item, please.
Next item is Mayor's commendation for the Glendale International Film Festival.
Thank you. Will the film festival representatives come forward?
Hello.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Velvet. I
Thank
do
you
have
so
a
much.
proclamation for your International Film Festival, and it's in recognition of your outstanding and prominent work in the entertainment industry. We commend your organization for honoring filmmakers and promoting their visionary cinematic work. Thank you for appreciating the works of talented individuals. And would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much for this great honor. Our goal is to bring filmmakers, screenwriters, and attendees from around the world to this great city. And we've succeeded for the last 6 years by bringing many more creative people, business people, all sorts of people from different parts of California. And this year, what is happening is we have the ArtSoc Paseo, so we will have many, many films and events on the Paseo. And the international aspect of bringing films to Glendale and making it a destination for film and creativity is my greatest joy, because I love this city and I really love bringing something really good to it for everyone to enjoy. And our mission has been primarily, we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and we want to integrate the filmmakers and the screenwriting arts into the identity and growth and economic vitality of the city of Glendale. And that is so exciting to be able to have that opportunity to do so. And again, we're honoring the student filmmakers here in Glendale this year. And we do hope that you'll be able to come and visit with all of our events. We're having our opening night on the ArtSoc Paseo. And then we'll have festivities throughout the week. Thank you again for your honor, great honor.
Thank you. Mr. Agajanian, you're the closest thing we have to a filmmaker. Council, so will you please present the commendation?
If you want to. I think he's going to play the video. It's the whole thing over here.
Yeah. Ready?
Are we good? Thank you. That's great. Can't wait to be there, October 10th to the 7th. Before we go to item 3D, I want to take an item not on the agenda before us. That is a presentation by our fire chief, Silvio Lanzas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Silvio Lanzas, your fire chief. I'm before you this
I'm
evening.
sorry. Will people stop talking in the back of the room, please?
Outside.
I'm sorry? Oh, it's from outside? Can we ask them to keep it down? We're doing the people's business here, and do they have a permit for such noise at this time? I'm sorry, Chief, I was hard to concentrate.
Nope.
And I'm sorry for accusing anyone in the room of talking, but it was hit me on the head.
No problem, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Silvio Lanzas, your fire chief. This evening, I'm before you to speak about two very important and timely items. The first is wildfire preparedness. As all of us have seen and felt over the last few weeks, summer is upon us. Last year, California saw the most destructive and devastating year of brush fires in our state's history. The Camp Fire in Paradise, California alone destroyed over 13,000 homes, 5,000 other buildings, and killed over 85 people. We are fortunate in Glendale to have a premier fire department with some of the most highly motivated and hardest working firefighters around. However, when it comes to brush fires, we need the public's help. I would like to play a video we created with the great team at GTV6 to help our residents understand some of the steps they can take to help prepare their home and our community from wildfire.
Yes. All right, we got it. Can we put it up?
Hi, my name is Silvio Lanzas, and I'm proud to be a Glendale Fire Chief. Following a 2018 wildfire season, where we saw fires ravage throughout communities, destroy over 18,000 homes, and kill over 100 people, we want to help share with our community how you can be prepared before a wildfire strikes. The geography, weather patterns, and a number of wildland-urban interface communities in California make it a state particularly threatened by devastating wildfire. To help educate property owners and residents in areas most at risk, we have developed a communications program called Ready, Set, Go that breaks down the actions needed to be ready for a wildfire. Being ready for wildfire starts with maintaining an adequate defensible space and by hardening your home by using fire-resistant building materials. Defensible space is the buffer you create by removing dead plants, grass, and weeds from around your home.
Drought-resistant plants are not only good for the environment, but they're also fire-resistive. As we can see here, this homeowner has done an excellent job clearing his brush 30 feet away from his home. He's also spaced out his plants, which will help prevent rapid fire spread.
Hardening your home means using construction materials that can help your home withstand flying embers, finding weak spots in the construction, which can result in your house catching fire.
Although large windows like these are absolutely beautiful on a hillside home like this, it can offer a lot of danger during extreme fire conditions because the windows will eventually break, allowing fire to come inside your home. What you can do to prevent that is get some custom shutters, flame retardant shutters, put inside your large glass windows to help keep fire at bay. As you can see, he has good protection overhead in his eaves. However, we do have an opening here from a vent, which should be closed by either a vent screen or a tight mesh.
What we have here is bamboo growing into a structure, into an eave. This would be an example of a ladder fuel. Any type of plant that will allow a ground fire to come and use as a ladder to contact the structure, whether it be a wall or an unprotected eave, is not safe in a fire situation. Removing this bamboo, this ladder fuel, would be another example of fire safety.
It's essential for a resident to have proper clearance between their home and brush. As you can see in our example here, there are two drier type shrubs close to this house. What this resident could do to alleviate this problem is remove all the brush altogether from their home or create a firewall that would protect their home from the brush if it was to catch on fire.
Two zones make up the required 100 feet of defensible space. Zone 1 extends 30 feet from buildings, structures, decks, etc. Zone 2 extends 100 feet out from buildings, structures, and decks. Flying embers can destroy homes up to a mile from a wildfire. Harden your home now before a fire starts by using ember-resistant building materials. The next step is being set. Before wildfire strikes, it is important that you prepare yourself and your home for the possibility of having to evacuate. There are three main preparation actions that should be completed and familiar to all members of your household long in advance of a wildfire. Step 1 is create a wildfire action plan that includes evacuation planning for your home, family, and pets. Step 2, assemble an emergency supply kit for each person in your household. And Step 3, fill out a family communication plan that includes important evacuation and contact information. The last and most important step is go. Remember, when immediate evacuation is necessary, follow these steps as soon as possible to get ready to go. Review your evacuation plan checklist. Ensure your emergency supply kit is in your vehicle. And locate your pets and take them with you. For more information on how to be wildfire ready, visit our website at glendalefire.com and readyforwildfire.org. And for up-to-date information on our fire department and ongoing incidents, visit us on social media at Glendale Fire CA. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, we are not immune to devastating wildfires here in Glendale. To date, we have conducted over 8,000 brush clearance inspections.
Hey, I want to show you something. Go ahead and skip this video if you don't like gadgets. But I'm a dad, and I found the perfect one. When I was traveling...
Gadgets was not part of the presentation, Mr. Mayor. To date, we have completed over 8,000 brush clearance inspections here in the city. Many residents are doing a great job in helping us be fire ready. I'd like to remind our residents to be careful when clearing brush around their homes. We encourage brush clearance to occur before 10 a.m. and to always have a water source nearby when doing so. The next item I would like to briefly speak about is disaster preparedness. On the heels of the strongest earthquake California has felt in over 20 years, I feel it is time critical to remind our residents that taking steps ahead of an earthquake or other disaster is key to keeping our community safe and prepared. A few basic but important steps every homeowner should take to be prepared ahead of a disaster are building a supply kit, creating an evacuation plan, and developing a family communication plan and staying informed. I encourage our residents to visit our website at glendalefire.com and wildfireready.org, as well as following our social media sites at Glendale Fire CA and at My Glendale for more information on wildfire preparedness and disaster preparedness. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions on wildfire prevention or earthquake prevention? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We're happy that you're keeping us alert to all this, and let's hope we can get through the season without any incidents.
Thank you.
Mr. Quintero.
I was going to say, I assume in addition to Channel 6, it'll also be on social media networks and so forth.
Yes, sir, it will be.
Yeah.
3D, the service award is off the agenda for this meeting, and we will let you know when it will be reposted. Let's move to the next item.
4 would be consent item. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed.
Thank you. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent calendar and abstain on the minutes of the different council meetings.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes?
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you. Next item.
Next item would be city council and staff comments.
And are there any comments? Let's start from the right side. Ms. Devine.
Thank you. First of all, I want to welcome former Mayor Quintero to the dais. It's good to have you here, filling your seat again. A couple of really fun activities occurred during the weeks that we've been gone, and the biggest, of course, was the 4th of July. And I know that the council approved the fireworks at Oakmont Country Club, and I just wanted to let everyone know that they went off beautifully. I want to thank Fire Chief for okaying the project along with us. Chris Stavros was there with his firefighters, and to make sure that everyone was safe. There were no incidents. The crowd loved them, and so I want to just let everybody know that it was a huge success. Also, La Crescenta, I want to thank Steve Pierce again for putting on a great show in La Crescenta. You know, that fireworks display and affair just gets bigger and bigger every year. People just have so much fun, and it takes so much work. It really does take a community to put something like that together. So I want to thank Steve and all of those that were responsible for those fireworks. And finally, Essentia had a fundraiser at Nickelodeon, and I have to tell you, it was one of the best fundraisers. They had 80s music, speaking of K-Earth. and I happen to love K-Earth 101. But what a great way to celebrate and to raise funds for the homeless, to celebrate Essentia and to raise funds for the homeless, because they really need our help, and Essentia is the best support system that we have working with the city. So I just want to commend everybody at that organization for putting on a fabulous affair and raising, I think, over maybe $30,000 for the homeless program. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Agajanian? Thank you. Mr. Quintero? Mr. Garbettian?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As my colleague indicated, 4th of July was, both events were very nice, and I have a friend who lives almost across the street from Oakland Country Club, and the fireworks was, right over your head. It was very nice. And what a way to end the 4th of July weekend with our women's soccer team, national soccer team, winning the World Cup for the 4th time. I just want to give them a big round of applause. They are the only team in the world that won the World Cup 4 times and won the Olympics once. Unfortunately, our men's team didn't make it, made it to the finals, but didn't come a little bit short at the end. But it was a great way of ending our weekend, the 4th of July weekend. I want to ask staff about the tennis courts project that we had. When we built the Central Park, we had to build maybe 2 more tennis courts in conjunction with or cooperation with the Glendale Unified School District. I want to know where we are on that. And I know that the mayor and the city manager meet with GUSD on monthly basis, if I'm not mistaken. Is it monthly basis? On monthly basis. So next time when we meet with them, I want to bring up this discussion about also their CIS championship pool that they're trying to build. I think they have some funding issues, and we were all talking about building more aquatic centers. Maybe we can do a partnership with them and the school. I mean, we all serve the same constituents. The kids are at the end are the ones who are going to use it. So maybe that would be another joint project that we can look into if possible. So when next time we meet with them, or maybe have another joint meeting with the board like we did 2 or 3 years ago. These are the 2 items that I want to get some clarification or answers, or I want to see what the status of it is and where we are and what can we do.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Councilmember Garpetian, I'll have Onik Bulanikian touch base with all of you quickly related to the tennis courts. As it relates to the aquatic center, I believe at Glendale High School that GUSD is in the process of building, and I believe that there is some funding issues. They've had discussions with the city, myself, and the mayor. That's one of the items that we had discussed by way of the budget process and Measure S possibility of funding if there was any sort of interest in terms of moving down that path. If there is interest by way of the City Council to resurrect that conversation, I'd be more than happy to provide information to the City Council in terms of what that may look like in terms of our partnership with GUSD and the funding that would be necessary for us to be able to partner with them, whether it was at the Glendale High School site or the Hoover High School site, based on another facility that they are in dire need of replacing as well.
Well, I'm very interested to have that conversation if my colleagues are interested as well, but I think it's a good thing to look into it, see if we can have that joint project, another joint project with the GUSD.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Najarian, members of the council. The GHS tennis court project is still alive. We're working with facilities and planning administration, GUSD, on the design documents. They're basically updating. Their consultant is updating the design documents, and they're going to submit to DSA any day now. So once when DSA approves, They're going to make the tennis court project, they're going to include it with aquatics, with their pool project, because it also includes a restroom and the upgrading of the lights of the tennis courts. So hopefully within the next couple months, we'll come back and give you an update. But we are working on it, and GHS, the consultant that they hired for the pool, has taken over the design of the tennis courts.
So as far as we're revisiting this issue, how do we go about it? If you want to come back and discuss it?
On the pool, I would ask to get a second, sir, on the discussion. That's one way to do it. I could also provide, by way of a memo to the City Council, information pertaining to what we found prior to the budget process in terms of costs associated with building certain size pools, what we know from the school district in terms of their needs, in terms of that gap, based on what they need at Glendale High School, and the possibility of partnering with them at Hoover. But I leave that up to this body.
Do you want to have a discussion?
Well, we've been in discussion with the pool people, with the school people about the pool for
Yes.
months, and we were discussing earlier about putting Measure S funds into there. So this should already be something that we're working on. So the specific request is to
Just have a discussion as to, get a report as to where we are and how can we help, and
Sure.
if there is a desire to help, I mean, we can have a discussion. That's all. It's just a discussion.
At this time, there are no Measure S funds that have been set aside for a joint pool project with the school district at this time. It absolutely does not mean that in the future or throughout this year, the council can't give us that direction to move in that direction. That is absolutely something that is possible. So again, I can provide that information to the City Council by way of a memo. And if there's interest from the City Council, we can then bring it forward after that, or you can get a second at this time, Councilmember Garapetian, and we can bring something by way of an agenda item to the City Council here.
well, by all means, let's
Bring it?
hear it, right.
Sure.
I mean, but we had reports from the school
Correct.
district that Glendale was
This is-
already on the books, and that Hoover, we had almost missed the boat for Hoover for their funding cycle and their request. And that's why, when we talked about Measure S funds, I didn't raise the pool issue, and the bulk of it went to affordable housing-related issues, and the ice rink, except for Councilmember Devine.
And
I would
Councilmember
just-
Quintero.
Quintero had nothing to do with that either, for good or for bad.
The other piece of it is, based on what I understand from Dr. King, is that they are still in need of funding to help them with the gap as it relates to at least the Hoover High School pool. But we are also meeting with the new superintendent this week, Mr. Mayor.
Let's bring
That's
it back.
something that we
Let's
can
bring it back.
bring up and bring it back. Sure.
Okay.
Whether we can turn that into an action item or a discussion, a policy discussion, that'll be fine.
And that's all I have for tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a few items. First, I did return from a 10-day trip to Armenia, and aside from the cultural rejuvenation that I experienced there, I did have a meeting with the president, Armin Sarkisian, who raised the suggestion and the encouragement on two subjects. One is that we further develop our sister city ties with the city of Gyumri. We are already a sister city with Gyumri, but felt that our connection has waned in the past few years. So he asked that we consider rejuvenating those ties. The second item he raised is very interesting, and he wanted me to convey to the residents of Glendale that the city of Glendale holds a very special place in the hearts of the entire Armenian population because they look to us. Many of their family members and friends have relocated to Glendale, and they're very active and keenly aware of what goes on in Glendale in terms of our city government and our development and our progress and quality of life. He invited the city of Glendale to prepare an exposition which will be held at the presidential grounds, which would highlight Glendale's culture, not only the Armenian culture, but all the multicultural that we do have in Glendale, the Korean, the Mexican, the Filipino, and the list goes on, Cuban, etc., and including artwork, music, food items. So it's a thought that I'm putting out. I've given it to staff. I want to give it out to the residents also. If you can think of some ideas about presentation on an exhibition on the presidential grounds in Armenia, let us know. This has no funding source at this point, but it's merely a concept that the president encouraged that we look into. So I'm happy to do that. I also went to the Republic of Artsakh, and they were very happy that we renamed Maryland Street to Artsakh. And they had heard about that and knew all about it. We even got the blessing by the Archbishop of Artsakh to change for having changed the name of Maryland, of course, St. Mary, the Holy Mother, to Artsakh. So we are absolved of that sin of besmirching the name of Mary. One other item is I did run into our former council member, the new High Commissioner of Diasporan Affairs, Mr. Zari Sinanian, and he sends his regards. I don't know if he misses being here, but he has a staff, and he has control of, so far, a staff of 25, and it may go to 50 or even more. He is working hard, trying to catch up with a huge workload, keeping connection with Armenians throughout the world. So he sends a big hello to everybody. Lastly, I'd like to clarify an item that has been a little bit obfuscated for at least 7 years now, 6 years, and that is the sister city park and sister city relationship group that we have in the city of Glendale. In 2013, Mr. Quintero was here. We talked about forming the Sister City Committee. So I want to make clear that any particular sister city that contributes to a fund to promote their sister city relationship with the city will not be used for the maintenance of any other sister city monument, display, or plaque. So the Korean sister cities, any funding will be dedicated to their monument. Any Armenian sister cities will be dedicated to their sister cities. Any Japanese sister cities will be dedicated to them. So those funds are not going to be commingled. Each one would be responsible. Also, at that time, there was perhaps an understanding that our sister city of Higoshi, Osaka, would be placing a monument or statue in our sister city park, which is now our central park, and that is not the case. And they have not expressed an interest to do so at this time. Of course, in the future, should they express such a desire, we'll be happy to accommodate them in their desires, but certainly not at this time. So, I have no other items. Let's go to the next item, please.
Next item would be community event announcements, 3-minute portion. There is one card submitted.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Kasakian is not here. But what's our policy on the 3-minute general public comments?
The
We only
three-
take 5?
Yes, we only take 5, correct.
Okay.
There is another part before that. It's the community event announcements, which is the white card that was handed to you.
Are there more than 5 cards submitted for?
The orange ones, no, there's only
So
5
we're
cards.
up to 5?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Because if we were at 6, I would have stretched it a little bit to make it accommodating. Let's go to the first part. Ariel Lopez. Please come forward. Hello.
My name is Ariel. And I'm April, and we're here representing the River Project and ULAR, which is the Upper LA River and Tributaries Working Group. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the LA County Master Plan with the revitalization of the LA River that's happening currently. But the exciting part is that tributaries are now being included in this process, which is the working group that we are part of. They normally are not. It affects Glendale particularly because it's part of the Verdugo Wash area. For those of you who are not familiar with tributaries, there are creeks and streams that connect into the river and create the river itself. So they're actually a really important body of water. So we're actually just doing community outreach to tell people about the 2 upcoming meetings that are happening. One is actually happening today, but the next one is on Thursday. It is at DreamWorks, and you must RSVP to attend. But you will be able to give all your community input about what you would like to see, what you imagine being done along the river and the tributaries themselves. It's very interactive, it's family friendly, and there's food provided as well. So like I said, we believe it's very important for the people of Glendale to show up because it would affect them. Different things from adding bike paths, access points, more signage, flood prevention, water quality, restoration, habitat, all of that stuff that people think are important but aren't usually heard. So we encourage everybody to come out, and we brought flyers as well as sign-up sheets so you guys can keep up to date with future meetings that are coming up.
Is there a
And that is-
time,
Very well.
the place, we have the place. Is
Can
it
you
time or-
re-announce the time and location and requirements to
The
attend?
flyers are in the back. They're in English and in Spanish. The next one's on Thursday at DreamWorks. So yeah, the information's
But you need to
6:30 to
RSVP.
8:30.
You need to let them know you're coming.
Yeah, RSVP. You can come in. It's free. And yeah, just reimagine the future of your tributaries and the LA River. It's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pass this around for you guys.
And the next speaker in the 3-minute general public comments, Peter Hotch.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian and members of the City Council. Over 4 years ago, I purchased a vacant lot in Glendale with the intention of building a new house for myself and my family, hired an architect, and embarked on the process of seeking building permits for the future new house. As a property owner and citizen of Glendale for over 18 years, I am here tonight to request redress for an injustice in the permit process over which I've had no control. My original application for plan check to build the new house involved payment of fees totaling $4,816. At the time of filing the plan check application, I was informed that it would be valid for 1 year, by which time I would be required to obtain a building permit. Unfortunately, it took 4.5 months after submitting my application to the plan check desk to receive any communication or corrections, an obviously unreasonable delay. We have made every effort to expedite the process, working through the process of addressing all of Plan Check's corrections, including their corrections to my response to their original corrections. Although this involved minor modifications, as well as expense, to plans and calculations by my structural engineer, civil engineer, surveyor, geologist, and geologist, and soils engineer, I did eventually submit, having made all requested corrections, what I believed to be the final version of plan corrections more than 2 full weeks before the expiration deadline, with every expectation that the application would be reviewed and approved within the 2 weeks remaining before expiration. However, the plan check desk did not complete this final evaluation until over a week after the expiration deadline had expired. Only at this moment was I informed that because I had not requested an extension before the plan check application had expired, an extension could only be granted by an additional payment of 50% of the original plan check fees instead of an administrative fee of $156. Since the deadline expiration was a direct result of delays made by the Building and Safety Department, and because I was not informed of the requirement to request an extension prior to the one-year deadline expiration until it had already expired, I am requesting that the City Council grant an extension to my plan check application at the rate of $156, for which I would have been eligible had I been informed of the requirement to make this request at the time of final submittal and before the expiration of the one-year deadline. Thank you for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Let's, Mr. City Attorney, I'm not sure if this is treated as an appeal of an administrative decision or it's something
I would just say, let's suggest that Mr. Lansfame follow up with staff and get some more information, and then we can act accordingly.
Okay. Can you do that, Mr. Lansfame? Speak to Mr.
Sure.
Hodge and see what we can do.
I can say it's built into our code that upon expiration, within 6 months, you could re-energize the permit with a 50%. So I'm not sure that anybody here, even the City Council, has the authority to grant the request that he wants without changing our code. And if you'd like, I can put the matter into some context as well.
Staff has had numerous contacts with Mr. Hatch, and Mr. Lansfame can give a brief update on that, and I know Mr. Alajanian has had a meeting as well. So
I don't have anything to tell you, but I want to speak about, I just realized today that if you miss the date, then to have the matter to be considered again, we are charging 50% of the fees, which in his case was like $2,200 he had to pay because he was late 1 week to refile it, the permit, for the permit. See, I mean, generally, like for your DMV fees, I bring an example. If you are late on your DMV fees, if you are late for 1 week, DMV says if your fee for that renewing the vehicle license is like $200, you're paying like for the first week, you pay like $20. And then, like if you are late 6 months, you pay like $100 or $80 or similar figures. And if you don't pay after 6 months, then there is the fees or penalties, I mean. The penalties will be doubled. I cannot imagine Mr. Hodge, I guess, if I say it right, anyway, that in his case, the penalty or the fee he has to pay to, like bring the issue back was $2,200. For some strange reason, then afterward, this fee has been calculated and they asked him to pay like something like $1,800, which is better than $2,200. But I think we have to have a policy, similar policy like that, that if they are late for a certain amount, because as he mentioned to me a few hours ago, he didn't realize that on top of the permit form, or whatever the name of that form is, it says if you are late, you have to pay penalty. But there are other sentences in there, and this penalty matter is somehow hidden there. I mean, so what I suggest, we have to bring this issue back and say, is not if you are late one day, so you will be penalized for $2,200. It should be some easy way to raise that penalty. Not all of a sudden for one day. He realized, as he mentioned to me a week later, that he had to renew it. And then after, he was under impression that he has to pay $156 to extend the permit for that building permit. So I suggest if we can consider now or later, look at this issue and make a softer way to assess a penalty. I would like to see that. I don't know, I can suggest now or later. I don't know how we have to look at this issue. Now?
We can't discuss the issue now, but you can ask for it to be agendized for future discussion.
Oh, okay.
Does someone else support
Yeah,
that?
I support that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I support it.
Mr. Garpet?
Yeah, just a couple of questions for point of clarification. So this was after the project was approved, not in this case because we can't discuss this. Let's say the project is approved, and then you have 1 year to pull your permit or 2 years?
Well,
if you have a design review
I think-
approval,
I think
you have 2 years to pull your permits, right? Building permits.
Right. There are two tracks, your design review, and yes, your discretionary entitlements, 2 years. You can ask for one extension up to a year. When you submit for plan check, you need to pull your permit within a year of plan check or ask for an extension.
Okay.
Once you get that permit, same timeline.
So before the plan check, that 1 year expires, if you ask for an extension, the fee is $150?
Correct, 156, correct.
And after that, it's 50%.
Correct.
Got it. And I think this is one of the issues that we can discuss when the budget comes. We always check our fees, revisit our fees at budget, approval time. And I think that would be a great time to discuss all of these issues.
Well, we have it
Well, we would,
indicated to be on the agenda, and I'll leave it to the city manager to determine when the best.
No, it's a good item to discuss.
Ms. Devine?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Do you notify the residents when?
Microphone, please. Microphone, please.
Do you notify, does Economic Development, plan check notify them when it's about to expire, or you don't have the?
Typically, we
staff?
don't. As was indicated, every one of our forms says when it expires, it has a statement that you need to renew it within a year. Each code checker is handling about 100 cases. The applicant has one, so we rely on the applicant to track that. Most professional, in fact, all professionals in the development business know of this, and we just expect it to be managed that way.
You point it out and you highlight it for them so that they?
We don't point it out and highlight it. It is on all of our documents. Again, that expiration date is on every comment that goes back. So it's in several places that, and albeit the notice of you have to renew it a year, it's in small print, but we have a document to work with, try and get as much information as we can.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to make it clear that, as has been mentioned by our director, Phil Lanzafame, the expiration is written on that page. But what I was saying, that there are other issues written, and sometimes non-professional person, the person who is a professional doing this day in, day out for living, probably, they know this. But a person who comes forward to, brings an application, the regular person, easily they can miss the dates because this is not they do every day. So to our staff's credit, it has been written on top, but it's clustered with other notices and sentences. So a ordinary person who is not a professional in this business easily can miss that date. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mike Mohill.
Welcome our shovel-ready Councilman Frank Quintero. So here we go. My neighbor, Peter Hatch, brought to me the issue about his permit being late. I'd like to thank Mr. Agajanian for talking to Mr. Hatch beforehand. Like you said, the whole thing about the date is small print. If his name was Rick Caruso or any other Carmel partner, they would know about this thing. This is a small developer. I think there should be exceptions to this rule. Another issue I'd like to talk about are the tennis courts that was brought up by Councilman Garpetian. I remember when Councilman Quintero and Mr. Najarian were council people at the time, and they were tearing down the adult recreational center and making the library. And they said at that time, what was that, 9 years ago, 10 years? I don't remember. But we're going to relocate those tennis courts at Glendale High School. Whatever happened to that promise? Okay, that's okay. The other thing that concerns me is the LA River project. Councilman Weaver was never one of my favorite council people here, but one thing he was a civil engineer. And I remember the evening he said, you know what? I know about water, and when you change its course, you're looking for trouble. Now, it sounds great, this river walk they're talking about. I'm all for it, too. But Mr. Weaver was an engineer with that kind of a background. I wish council would bring him back for discussion before the city of Glendale puts its stamp on that project. Don't you remember, Mr. Quintero?
You're out, Frank. Mr. Weaver's going to take this spot.
I'll second that. Bring Weaver back.
There you go. Was he shovel ready? That's what I want to know. Anyway, welcome back, Mr. Quintero. I hope we'll have a nice business relationship. Bye.
Thank you. Rubik Ghazarian.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm an owner of a house. I bought this house. I bought this house as is. You can see in the picture that there's a sign for sale by real estate. But I got last year in April 23rd letter from the city, and one guy, his name was Jose Hernandez, sent me a letter that your paver in front of your house is, you added, but I didn't. I bought it just like that. I asked my neighbor, it was like 20 to 25 years old. The neighbors that was before, at the time, was seven years I had this house. And then after that, I come to city to see the guy, because it was 24th of July. The next day I come with a smile in my face. I said, and I had these pictures with a date on it. All the date was there, the date that they took a picture. And then he make a copy of it. I had another issue, I solved that one. And then he sent me to the planning section for this paver, which was part of it was different color. And I went there, the guy, when I wanted to go sit, I was sitting there, and the next was a nice lady was doing her job, and this guy complimentary. I told the guy, you are, look like a Persian people, but I didn't mean anything with that. And then all of a sudden this guy just face changed, and whenever I asked, what is this? And I had a lot of question about my house, and then he's just like ignoring me, and then he just like, he didn't let me to finish my sentence, my question. And then he stand up and said, next, next, next. And I look up behind me, there was just one lady sitting there, even was not doing anything with this guy, and he left. When I go back to the Jose Hernandez, and by the way, I had a mom at the time, was about 9 years old, was sick, and I was only person that I was taking care about her, and sometimes he fall. I close my business come to, I was worried to fall, to broke his bones or something. Anyway, when I come back to the guy, and then with my life pressure that I have was in, this guy just told me that because he see that
Your time is up,
I come,
Mr. Gazarian.
Yeah.
But what I think you're trying to convey to us is that you received a code violation for excessive paving
Yes.
in your front yard.
yes.
And are you familiar with this case?
Not familiar with the particular case,
He's
but
got most of a file here, and that appears to be the issue, is that excessive paving greater
it
than
was,
the
it
width
was
of
not
a
only
car.
that different
Right.
color, but when I come to this guy to tell him that blah, blah, and then he
Okay,
said,
so
you have to take up all the pavers.
Okay, so
Mr. Mayor, members of the
Because
City
you
Council.
time is up.
I'm
Hold
by
on.
myself.
Hold on, Mr. Gazarian.
Sure. This is an issue that has been in neighborhood services as well as the city attorney's office, and I believe it was closed within the city attorney's office, but some modifications and some citation fees are still needed to be paid. So staff will contact the gentleman in terms of some of his questions that may be before you today to just go over what we have based on what we understand the case to be, and we can provide that information to you as well so that you're aware of it, and we can make you aware of all of the nuances of this issue.
Okay. I mean, you understand this is an individual case. We can't, we may at some point, if you appeal it, would it come to council if there's an appeal? No.
No, the
So staff,
thing
I
is,
understand what you're saying. Council
I got
has-
a parking ticket to put the car in my home. I had 4 disabled people that they bring the medicine to this guy. I couldn't close my shop and come there or put the
Okay.
sign, no
Say-
parking sign there
Okay.
in my property.
So.
They give me penalty for the parking.
Yes, it looks like you did get a penalty for that. I can't speak, and I don't think any of us know the case in enough familiarity to answer your question, except that what the city manager indicated, that it's going to be.
Yes, it's about the two
reviewed, and they're gonna
weeks.
get back
Mr. Jasmine, I
to
voted
explain
for you,
that.
by the way.
Thank you, sir.
To get
Thank you, Mr.
appointment
Gazarian.
with you, but I couldn't reach you.
Thank you, Mr. Gazarian. Next speaker is Robert Nothoff.
We're going to make copies. We'll give it to you back, okay? It's fine. It's fine.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian and members of the council. My name is Robert Notoff, and I'm the director of the Waste and Recycling Project with the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. And we pride ourselves in raising standards in what is a mostly invisible but necessary industry that impacts every single one of us here. Our vision for the waste industry is to make sure that it operates in a responsible way that maximizes diversion from landfills, minimizes pollution, prioritizes food rescue so that we're feeding families and not landfills, and that we protect the very workers who make it all function. And I'm also pleased to say that I'm standing with many brave workers from Athens Environmental Services behind me who have been up since 2:00 a.m. this morning. They pick up trash here in the city of Glendale, but these issues are so important to them that they decided to come here tonight rather than being with their families. And they're going to get up again tomorrow at 2 a.m. to go, again, service businesses here in Glendale. All of us, businesses, residents, and visitors, are impacted by the waste industry. And so it stands to reason that we're all better off when we have a high road waste industry that is supported by high road actors. We're also aware that the city of Glendale is currently embarking on a process to convert its commercial waste system into an exclusive franchise system. And we are 100% supportive of that model. But we want to highlight tonight that the success of any franchise system is dependent on the type of standards that you establish within the policy and the integrity of the hauler or haulers who you choose to and ultimately select to service your city. Unfortunately, I'm here tonight with, again, a lot of my colleagues to express a few concerns that we have about Aeroco Services, also known as Athens Environmental Services, one of the companies that currently performs commercial waste services here in the city of Glendale. And they're also applying to get one of these exclusive contracts, if not all of them, once you make your final decision. I also wanted to point out that, for the record here, we have been canvassing to talk about the issues that are facing these workers. They have not had a raise in 2 years. They've been negotiating for a contract. Their health care has gone up, and they have received nothing yet. Workers and other companies have had the same thing throughout the industry. They've been denied this for 2 years, and we started going and talking to to Glendale businesses and sharing what's going on there. And when these residents here, when these business owners hear about this, they've been signing our petition in support of these workers because they feel that they deserve that, given the duties that they perform for the actual city, and also because of the fact that they realize that should this company get an exclusive contract and there's potential labor strife, what that would mean for their businesses and day-to-day operations. So we wanted to put it on the record in terms of what's really taking place with one of the companies who wants this exclusive zone for you, because, again, when we speak to business owners, in their eyes, it doesn't make sense to award a waste contract to a company that has a tenuous relationship with its workforce. Again, we support the exclusive franchise system that you're moving forward with, but it's only going to be as strong as the haulers that you select, and we wanted to make sure that you were fully aware of what's going on with Athens Environmental. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mr. Garpetian?
I'm sorry, just a quick question for you. Who do you represent? Which company are you with? Are you with Athens?
I'm not with any company
Okay,
whatsoever.
so
I'm with a nonprofit organization. We are the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. We work with environmentalists. We work with community groups. We work with the clergy and laity. We work with the Teamsters and with organized labor as well. We have we work with multiple stakeholders, and we're just trying to make sure we raise standards within the industry as a whole.
I appreciate that. And so you're speaking on behalf of the employees of the Athens? I want to understand.
Yes, sir. And the next speaker actually will be able to kind of go into more detail. He's a representative from the actual union. It is going to shed a little more light on what's going on, and also some issues that this company is having with the city of Los Angeles after they awarded them an exclusive franchise as well.
Got it. Thank you.
And that would be Aiden Alvarez.
So good afternoon, Council and Mayor. My name is Adan Alvarez. I work for Teamsters Local 396, and I've been working with Athens Environmental Service workers, the workers who have been responsible for picking up commercial waste for scores of businesses here in Glendale and on renewing their contract for the past few years. These workers have been without a union contract for almost 2 years now, which means that they have not had a raise for 2 years. I'd also like to state for the record that Athens Environmental Services purchased the yard 2 years ago, and prior to their purchase, there is never any threat of any potential labor strife. However, as soon as Athens Environmental took over, there was worker tension seemingly overnight. As my colleague has mentioned, the city of Glendale is currently in the midst of pursuing an exclusive franchise system, which will be one of the most important decisions that the body makes, and it will impact your personal legacies as well as the lives of residents, businesses, and visitors for years to come. As we mentioned, the waste industry impacts us in several ways, from environmental sustainability to food rescue, infrastructure, and worker and community safety. That's why it's important to get it right when you select a hauler and enter into a contract with them. You'll want to avoid unscrupulous haulers. Sadly, I have 2 documents here, which I have copies for your staff, that I want to present to you tonight that concern the parent company of one of the waste haulers that is bidding to be an exclusive waste hauler here in Glendale. First is a copy of the National Labor Relations Board documents that outlines unfair labor practices committed by Athens Services, in which they illegally intimidated, harassed, and even fired an employee for engaging in union activity. They are set to have a hearing on this on August 6th. Second, I have a letter from the City of Los Angeles Department of Sanitation in which they are asking Athens Services for proof of material requirement of their contract. You'll note in the letter that this is the 3rd such letter that the city has asked for, and that Athens Services has not yet complied with this request. That doesn't speak of a company with a lot of integrity. So please, we ask that you take our concerns into consideration as you embark on a decision that will impact the quality of life for every resident, business, and visitor in the city of years to come. We know that you want the best for Glendale residents, and waste companies that push their workers to potential labor disputes is not the way to go. Thank you for your time. I'll give your staff copies of these documents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Devine.
I'm confused. Do these gentlemen work for Athens, or they don't work for Athens?
Yes, they
They
do.
all work for Athens.
That's correct.
And you're telling us that the company is not fair and that we should not look at them for any further business?
Right, that's correct. I mean, based on their, their behavior patterns and the charges they're facing from the government, that's our opinion, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming forward. I don't have any other cards. Let me double check. That is correct. That will end this portion of oral communications. And let's move to the next item.
Next item would be adoption of ordinance 7A, an ordinance amending section 10.04.010, 10.40.110, and 10.40120, and adding section 10.40.210 to the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to parking meters.
Thank you, Ms. Beers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this item was before you a couple of weeks ago related to the Glendale Community College and the City of Glendale parking agreement, whereby revenues will be split 50-50, and each body, Glendale Community College and the City of Glendale, would be responsible for our own sites in terms of maintenance.
Very good. Are there any cards?
There are no cards.
Is there a motion?
I'll move the...
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Thank you. Next item.
8 would be action item 8A, Fire Chief and City Attorney regarding amendments to the Glendale Municipal Code relating to firework permits. 8A1, ordinance for introduction.
Ms. Beers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will go directly to our City Attorney, Mike Garcia.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the item before you is an ordinance to amend the Glendale Municipal Code pertaining to permits for fireworks displays. Currently, the code requires a process where the fire chief prepares a report and then submits that to the City Council for consideration and approval. The code amendment would amend the code to vest that authority with the fire chief under utilizing his or her authority under the fire code and in consultation with the city manager's office.
Well, you know, of course, that the City Council knows everything and is always right. But in terms of fireworks and pyrotechnic safety, I personally feel comfortable ceding that authority to the fire chief. And that's essentially what this item does.
I move the item.
And if I
Thank
may,
you.
I'd like to
Ms. Devine?
second that because, of course, as successful as Oakmont was, we owe that to the fire chief and his crew. So I would second that.
As well as the many other urban firework displays that we have at the Americana and other locations throughout. So,
Mr. Mayor, if you treat Mr. Agajani's motion as an introduction of the ordinance.
yes, this will be an introduction. Okay, with a firmly supported by Ms. Devine. Next item, please.
Next item would be B, Director of Public Works regarding Highland Avenue Rehabilitation Project. B1, resolution rejecting all bids, dispensing with competitive bidding, and authorizing the Director of Public Works to directly negotiate with one or more bidders and the city manager to execute a construction contract in the amount not to exceed $2,240,000 and approving a 10% reserve contingency specification number 3795R. 2 would be resolution adopting the plans and specifications.
Ms. Beers.
Yes, sir. We'll go directly to Public Works Director Yazdan Amrani.
Thank you. Good
Yes,
evening,
Mr.
Mr. Mayor, members of council. On April 30th of this year, City Council approved the plans and specification for the Highland Avenue Rehab Project. We received bids back on May 29th. We received 5 bids. All of those bids were higher than the original engineer's estimate of $2,080,000. Subsequently, staff also identified 3 additional small but high priority improvements in the vicinity of this project that we thought of combining with the scope of the original project in order to take advantage of the economies of scale and for greater efficiency. Therefore, we are respectfully requesting rejecting all bids, dispensing with competitive bidding, and moving forward with the negotiation with these 5 firms so that we can get a greater economy of scale in terms of moving forward with this project at this point. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I'll move the item. There are no other questions.
Second. Thank you. Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Let's move to the next item.
9 will be hearing 9A, Director of Public Works, regarding hearing to determine if any nonprofit agencies are available to provide public paratransit services as required by the Federal Transit Administration, FTA Section 5310, grant application process. 9A1, resolution finding that there are no nonprofit agencies readily available to provide paratransit service to seniors and disabled in the Glendale Dial-A-Ride service area.
This is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing and go to Ms. Beers.
Yes, sir. We'll go again directly to Mr. Amrani.
Mr. Amrani.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. City of Glendale operates the Dial-A-Ride, and we provide the service for seniors over 65 years of age. Currently, the city owns 7 federally funded vehicles in our Dial-A-Ride program, and the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority makes the FTA Section 5310 grants available to local transit agencies provided for seniors and disabled population. As part of these grant requirements, we are required to have a hearing to ensure that there are no nonprofit agencies that can provide the same service to our residents. And as part of the requirements for these grants, so be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any nonprofit agencies that are available to provide paratransit services to seniors and disabled in the Glendale Dial-A-Ride service area? Please come forward if there are. I do not see any. Does that suffice, Mr. Garcia, in terms of our
And just that you opened the
requirements?
hearing, yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
And just that you opened the hearing.
And that it was open.
Okay.
That was my first
All right.
order of business.
That
Therefore,
does it.
I'm going to close the hearing and accept a motion at 9A1.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. 9B, please.
Director of Public Works regarding approval of the final engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments for the North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District for fiscal year 2019-2020. 1, resolution approving the engineer's annual levy report. Resolution ordering the levy and the collections.
This is also a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing. Go to Ms. Beers.
Yes, sir. It looks like it's the Public Works night, so we're going to go to Mr. Amrani. I'm not sure if he did that because Mr. Golanian's not in the house, but I think it's worked well. Mr. Amrani.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, on June 18th of this year, City Council adopted the resolution that initiated the proceeding for the North San Fernando Road Corridor Landscape Maintenance District, which was formed back in January 9th of 2007. This is an improvement district that provides lawn, ground cover, shrub, tree care, hardscape maintenance, and other amenities that may include trash receptacles and lighting. So it is respectfully recommended at this point that the City Council approve and adopt a resolution approving the final engineer's report and ordering the levy and collection of annual assessments for this landscape maintenance district. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions that council has on this item? Would someone like to
Move the item.
move the item?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a roll call.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. And let's move to the next
12 would be
portion.
12 would be oral communications, 5 minutes. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Thank you. The first card I have is a little bit hard to read. Judy Laird? Lund. Judy Lund, come forward, please. Judy Lund.
Good evening, all the council person and all the audience. My name is Judy Lan. I've been in this city probably more than 40 years. I see the progress of the city, whether good or bad. But usually I'm very humble and keep myself. But at this time, after I retire, I'm senior, and I feel the dangers of myself. That's why I had to be here to ask all the council person and the policemen to protect me. This is all the way back. Like I said, I've been living in this city so long. Usually, I'm very pleased with the city's service. You know, the utility, public, even policemen back to 1991 for the riot. I'm very pleased. By that time, I have little small business. I'm very ordinary. I came from Taiwan, and I don't speak English very well. And I always blame myself for the communication because there's lots of mistakes by the city also too. You know, now I let it go because I had to learn to let it go. When you were young, raising 3 children for the first generation, after you full grown up, 25 years old, I have no time to argue with anything. See, I should, but I should not. I did not have time until I retired. Well, not really retired, still making money. You know, but I come here today is, as I say, for the personal safety. First, a few years ago, I think probably 5 to 10 years, the traffic is very awful, and I'm scared to death. And also, I've been getting involved in accident, even not my fault. But by judge or by my attorney, they define 50-50, which I did not know until later on. I found out I'm really angry with that, which is not supposed to happen because you just spoil those aggressive driver or violent driver to keep doing that. Personally, myself too, just because I live alone without a witness, even you get involved in accident, no witness, you cannot win in the court unless you have full coverage. Okay, I tell you the truth, that's my experience. Usually I have full coverage, but later on, after I retire, I do not have. So I let it go. And the person who hit me eventually said, oh, thank you. At the beginning, he said I hit him. I just let you know the truth of the life, the reality, okay? All right, this time I come here is because I have new neighbor moved in 2008 who has been harassing me, you know, taking the street parking and sexual harassment, harassing me. At the beginning, I won the case after the second fire, remind myself. But later on, the wife know what's going on. The wife is a lawyer. So then he fired harassment, you know, to her husband for me, which I did not do anything. But she won because she's a lawyer, simple just like that. I'm telling you my life experience. Okay, that's probably 5 years ago. I let it go because I have restraint order with him, and they have restraint order on me, but I let it go. Like I say, I've been experienced lots of things in this city, and you don't see many Oriental in this city, more than them about 40 years ago, okay? But now, because like that, I moved away for 3 years. I cannot stand in the insult in my life. I'm very good, decent citizen. I don't need to use anything to grab the people money or cheating on the other people or harass the other people. My life is full joy to me. I'm very lucky with 70%, even I'm struggling to survive. But this time I came here because after I come back last year, January, The neighbor again, it happened this year, May 3rd. The neighbor actually is the one who raising me, kicked a wooden board toward me. And the police show up without anything, really, make a judgment or anything because they saw it's property issue. Eventually, the wife filed a restraining order against me again. And because from the lawyer office, they just passed the temporary restraining order, go to the court, they won because they hired a lawyer, which I didn't. That's why I'm coming here. I'm sorry. It's 5 minutes. I just want the city to protect me instead of put me into the jail before it's too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Martin Marufo. Martin has left. Valerie Renla Milora. Repla Milora.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. My name is Valerie Remy Milora. I know the handwriting is a little messy. I'm here tonight on behalf of GAP, Glendale Advocates Against Planned Parenthood. And I'm here because there is growing concern among Glendale citizens about Planned Parenthood coming into our community. So I am here to ask the following of the members of the Glendale City Council. I've given the documents to your city clerk, a couple of brochures to support this request. And so what we ask is that you enforce all zoning, building code, and other regulations on Planned Parenthood. We also ask that you pass one or more of the resolutions that say the following. The city will not sign any contracts with Planned Parenthood or provide it any direct or indirect funding. No Planned Parenthood literature will be permitted at any time in any city-owned space. As a condition of employment, no city employee will be permitted to refer anyone to Planned Parenthood for any services. No Planned Parenthood employees or other representatives of Planned Parenthood will be allowed to participate in any task force, work group, meeting, health fair, or any other activity where city money is involved in any way with the activity. No city employee will appear at any Planned Parenthood event where that employee is specifically cited for his or her city position. City employees are free to attend as private citizens as they desire. I want to make it clear that the concerned citizens of Glendale strongly oppose Planned Parenthood coming into our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jackie Eco. Is that your real name?
Yes, hi. How you guys doing? Just FYI, I have a terrible ear infection, so my voice quality might go up and down a wee bit. I didn't expect to be called so soon. I'm so sorry. Okay, this is a little disorganized, so sorry. Okay.
That's a stage name, though, right? Jackie Eco.
I'm so sorry. What?
I'm saying that's a stage name.
It's
Jackie Eco,
actually,
and you're going to talk about environmental?
I am talking about Grayson. I hope I'm not up prematurely.
No, you're right, you're right. The time is yours,
Okay.
Ms. Eco.
Okay. So sorry. Okay, I'll do the best I can. So while the recent 7.1 earthquake that we had was 11 miles from Ridgecrest, they did experience several gas leaks, which caused 4 major fires, and with a population of 28,000, we're lucky that no one was burned alive. That is a population of 28,000 people compared to Glendale's over 200,000 residents. Statistically, even with a 7.1 magnitude earthquake 10 miles away, we are already more at risk. And, so sorry. Glendale has had, in the past 24 hours, 8 earthquakes. In the past 7 days, 191 earthquakes. In the past 30 days, 258 earthquakes. And in the past 365 days, Glendale has had 718 earthquakes. So, according to the Southern California Earthquake Center, natural gas piping and appliances can be damaged during an earthquake, and it can cause gas leaks. And about 1 in 4 fires after an earthquake is related to natural gas leaks. This is terrifying, and I feel a bit foolish. This is earthquake country. In contrast, the Seattle Post-Intelligencer reports that solar panels aren't dangerous. They can't explode when you drop them, and they can't set your house on fire. In fact, solar energy has been implemented in repowering after many natural disasters, from Hurricane Maria to the 7.8 magnitude earthquake in Nepal's Kathmandu back in 2015. And to also help the victims of Hurricane Hugo all the way back in 1988, because the solar energy was reliable. Okay. So, I'm so sorry, terrible ear infection. I still made it out though, as a trooper. Talking about the reliability of energy versus the sensibility of safety, expanding the gas of Grayson, citing reliability of electricity for safety, yet simultaneously be directly responsible for causing fatal fires and explosions is about as sensible as securing a seatbelt on a drunk driver. So, do you think right now that the town of Ridgecrest is thinking about expanding their gas? No. They're trying to prepare for more severe earthquakes. We could be Ridgecrest. Today, tomorrow, next year, next month. Grayson is apparently on loose asphalt, so it's not exactly the best place to be expanding a gas plant on that location as it is. Now, we don't want explosions there, and we certainly don't want them in our homes. However, just something to think about for the future. I'm not saying we're going to do this tomorrow, but it's just my own observation that perhaps we should look into utilizing more electric ovens and heaters powered by solar in one of the sunniest states of America. And I don't think we want to be foolish and think we can play games with nature, kind of like Japan's Fukushima plant, which provided reliability until their earthquake and tsunami back in 2011. And Fukushima, as you may know, is still a huge, terrible disaster that they are still grappling with trying to get a hold of. Okay, so I think that covers my comment. Thank you. My name is Jackie Eco.
Thank you very much. Kim Sinclair.
Hi, good evening. As a health teacher at Glendale High School, I would ask that each of you vote and consider moving forward with the green energy for Grayson Power Plant. At Glendale High, we covered our parking lot with solar panels, saving the one school $1,000 per month in energy costs. This year, all of the rooftops of all of our buildings at Glendale High are in the process of having solar panels put on the roofs. Please join your own school district and the high school namesake in clean energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle Lemon.
I'm also here to talk about Grayson. So when I first heard the UN climate change report on the news several months ago, I started having regular panic attacks. And the news on climate change isn't getting any better. So rather than feel helpless and resigned to the fact that our planet will be inhospitable in a matter of years, I started spending my limited free time doing research on actions I can take to reduce my carbon footprint. I research everything I buy, from big purchases like cars to smaller purchases like toothbrushes. I bring my own forks, containers, and travel mugs wherever I go, etc., etc. But I'm just one person. I can make a small difference with my behavioral changes, but I can't do it on my own. I try to teach my daughter and my elementary students to make environmentally responsible choices, but that only goes so far. We need our elected officials to make these changes more feasible and large scale. I can buy an electric car, but if I'm powering it with fossil fuels, that only does so much. I just got back from Seattle, where they have citywide compost and businesses that use compostable utensils. The Bay Area has these things too. When is Glendale going to get on board with sustainability? Not only are we behind on waste issues, now we're considering building a new gas plant when it will be obsolete in a few years. In addition to this being an environmentally bad move, it also doesn't make economic sense. All sources say that renewables are quickly becoming significantly cheaper. And from everything I've learned about the process for approving the Grayson plant, it feels troubling that the plan is going to be voted on by council members who are not experts in energy. I researched if I should buy bamboo toothbrushes, so I would really hope that Glendale would take the time to ensure the adequate research is done before embarking on an economically and environmentally costly plan. We don't have time for incremental change, we need systematic change. LA and Oxnard rejected gas plants recently, why can't we? If that means placing a hold on the plan until more experts can review it, that needs to happen. I don't want my daughter to grow up in a city where with some of the worst air quality in the country, let alone one that contributes to making the world more inhospitable to her and her future children by contributing to climate change. I can only do so much with my metal spoons in my purse. I need my elected officials to help me help our city and our planet by really doing the research to ensure that we are making responsible choices with our energy, because it impacts all of us, and there is no longer time for good enough solutions.
Thank you. Nancy Kempo.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk about Grayson, and my name is Nancy Kempo. I live in LA 90065, which makes me your neighbor. And I'm also a member of the Northeast Progressive Democrats. And I hope that as you listen to my words, you might picture in your mind's eye the child or the children that you love dearly. So I'll just continue with what I came to say. I came downstairs to be part of a widespread coalition that wants no part of gas-powered plants in Glendale's future. I applaud your starting to understand that energy renewables are not only possible, but will save Glendale millions of dollars. I came up here to encourage you to say yes to a renewable energy future. Gas power has no place in the future. And if you were to go down that path, Glendale would be the only city left in California to have said yes to a loser, which is gas power. You would be creating a future guaranteed to give ill health to your children who count on your care as public servants to protect them from air filled with particulates and all the other illnesses associated with natural gas. But let's call it by its real name. It's not natural. Well, I guess it is, but it's methane, which is a terrible, terrible substance. And what we're talking about when we use that phrase, natural gas, it's always methane. Do you really want your children to be subjected to methane gas? In today's crowd outside downstairs, there were many children from toddlers to 19-year-olds, excuse me. They face a horrible future globally that translates into local decisions like what Glendale is considering. If you have any children that you love, I urge you to say yes to a plant that produces clean, renewable energy. One by one, such decisions make up the hope that we owe our children, that you owe your children, all of our children. And so, please, give them a future that's worth living. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally Arscott.
Good evening, everybody. Simplistically, very briefly, I'm from Glendale Park. but we all breathe the same air, so here I am. When I think of GWP, I am reminded of a challenge put out by a young person, because we are getting beaten up by young people over the matter of fossil fuels, the climate crisis and all of this. And this young lady said, the climate is changing, are you? And I think that's something that we all need to listen to. As the lady was saying, she's making all these adjustments in her private life, and it isn't easy. It isn't easy at all. I also hear about renewables all the time, that they are too unpredictable. And in a way, I have to give it to the fossil fuel industry, because they are entirely predictable. The maps from space show that this country is riddled with pipelines. We know what those are. It's like cancer spreading everywhere. We know the toxic effects of digging up fossil fuels, and it needs to stop. And I'm sorry, big mouth, huh? But I'll keep it brief. I just want to say, can we please carry away with us the challenge from this young girl who's starting her life with the climate crisis, that the climate is changing, are you? And that we should all play our part in it. Even if we live in Glendale Park, we should come over to Glendale and vice versa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elise Kalfaya.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian and members of the City Council. I'm Elise Kalfayan, and I'm a member of the Glendale Environmental Coalition. And I'm here to urge you to have GWP drop the plan to build new gas-burning capacity for our energy portfolio. I grew up inland from here, under the grayish-brown skies of the 1970s. And one of my strongest memories of those smoggy years was the 1973 OPEC oil embargo, with the nightly news featuring long lines of cars waiting at gas stations to fill up their tanks. I clearly remember thinking as a teenager, like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to use this nasty fuel? This is a threat to our national security. We're economically dependent, we're systemically dependent, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for our health. The people in charge have failed us here. I learned later that community leaders and scientists, activists and grassroots organizations, and elected officials who had been lobbied by all of those were fighting industry polluters and business interests and auto manufacturers and even the federal government to fix air pollution. And I'm really grateful for their successes. They fought business and they forced businesses to change, and they forced the automakers to change too. When my children were teenagers, the skies in Southern California were mostly blue. So more time has passed. The skies have started to look grayish-brown again. I'm sure we all have noticed. This month, the LA Times reports that smog is making a comeback and climate change is contributing to the problem. It says, quote, California must move as quickly as possible toward a zero-emission future, both to protect residents living in the smoggiest areas and to help prevent the most devastating effects of climate change, unquote. So community leaders, scientists, and grassroots organizations are still fighting the fossil fuel industry. Now, because of the climate crisis, it's no longer just a national security issue, it's a global security issue. We must end dependence on fossil fuels. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for our health, it's especially bad for our children and future generations. You are the people in charge here. Tell GWP to abandon the plan to invest in new gas-burning capacity and to instead invest in zero-emission clean energy for Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Colton.
Thank you, council people, for allowing me to speak. I want to once again emphasize what I did before. I want to Also, congratulate your last speaker. She said it quite well. I was born in Burbank. I grew up in North Hollywood. At the time, we had incinerators in the backyard, burnt every morning into the air, creating a cloud through which we had to walk, ride, and breathe pollution. Now, because of the people who spoke, your plan has gone from 262 megawatts at $450 million to 93 megawatts at how many millions of dollars for instrumentation, for tooling that has a planned life of 50 to 100 years and will be obsolete in 30. How's that economically correct? That's waste. That, as a 38-year, 9-month taxpayer and ratepayer to GWP, I'm appalled. I think you need to reconsider where that money is going and how to use it wisely. You're not, if you accept this plan. It should be going into more roof solar as grants, including battery backup. You can do a connected plan that's been proven and elsewhere is implemented and has a history of success. Do you really want to be a relic of the past? Do you want to be the last dinosaur? Please, don't gas Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Brotman.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Dan Brotman, co-founder of the Glendale Environmental Coalition. I'm sure you noticed that there was a large rally outside this evening. There were many hundreds of people. I don't know exactly how many, but at least 300. Why do people give up an evening like this and come out with their friends and family to protest? It's not for fun and games. People are concerned, and they want you to know that they're concerned. They want you to know that they don't want this city to invest in dirty energy, not now in 2019, when we know the severity of the climate emergency and when we know that clean energy can meet our needs. They want you to show leadership and try harder. I said this at the last commission meeting, and I'll say it again. GWP should be commended for moving in the right direction. The current proposal is a big improvement over the one that you looked at just over a year ago. According to the IRP, it's cleaner, it's more flexible, and it's about 20% cheaper. It represents a savings of over $170 million versus the Siemens all-gas project. And that's all really good. But remember, we were told last year that GWP needed 262 megawatts to keep the lights on. We even saw images and heard stories of, old people being stuck at home in 110-degree heat without air conditioning, which I call fear-mongering. We were also told that clean energy was too unreliable and expensive. Now we're told, no, 93 megawatts can do the trick. Clean energy works just fine, and actually it's cheaper. I believe GWP is acting in good faith. I think they're good people, and they're doing what they think is best. But like all bureaucracies, people are slow to change. People get stuck in old ways of doing things, ways that they're comfortable. And they need to be pushed out of their comfort zone, and that's your job. They were wrong last year when they said we needed 262 megawatts and there were no good alternatives. And I submit they're wrong now when they say they need 93 megawatts of gas. There is a reason that every other gas proposal has been shelved in the state of California, and that Glendale is the last one standing. I don't want our city to be the last place in California to approve a gas plant. The Glendale Environmental Coalition and the Sierra Club have prepared a letter laying out a detailed critique of the current proposal and recommending what I think is a balanced and reasonable path forward. I hope you will read it carefully and we'd be willing to sit down and discuss it. I have several copies here that I'm going to hand out. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel and Meridian Ridgeway.
Hi. Hi. My name is Meridian Ridgeway. My idea of how to keep the city cool is to not have black asphalt. This will help save the lives of our people. Thank you.
So I'll try to be as brief as my daughter here. She's 6 years old, and she, like the rest of us, know we live in a warming world. And why is it warming? Well, it's warming because we keep burning fossil fuels every time we drive our cars, every time we turn on the lights. And we have the opportunity to move things in a different direction so that maybe the world doesn't get so warm. And maybe black asphalt is not the best way to keep our cities cool, urban heat island effects being what they are. But another way to do that is to avoid this catch-22 we've gotten ourselves into, where one rationale for expanding this power plant, I understand, is because we live in a warmer world. We're going to have to keep people cool. That means more energy expenditure. Well, we're going to keep people cool by burning fossil fuels to create an even warmer world? That doesn't make sense. That is not a tenable or sustainable way of doing it. So the world gets warmer and we need to spend more energy to keep cooling ourselves off. The California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment tabulated there were 40 deaths in 2015 due to heat-related illness. An additional 45,000 people in the state were hospitalized with heat-related illness. That doesn't even quantify the number of people who were hospitalized or deal with chronic respiratory ailments. And I know quite a few people who do, including myself. I have asthma. And so I would urge the council to please consider alternatives to fossil fuel for the sake of our children, for the sake of your children and grandchildren who are going to have to breathe the air in this city. You have incredible power. It's been said, and maybe it's a little bit cliche, with great power comes great responsibility. Please consider your options. Green energy is, as others have pointed out, the most affordable option when you factor in all of the external costs that are going to have to be borne. Who's going to bear those costs? We all are going to bear those costs. In health, in safety. I don't know if you like to eat shellfish, but ocean acidification is only going to get worse. That's going to impact our fisheries. The warmer the planet gets, the less reliable our water supply is going to be. Living in Southern California, that's something we can all be sensitive to.
There's going to be more hot water and less cold water.
So please no new gas. Please try to find a green alternative. As Dan Brotman pointed out, it's an affordable option. So please choose wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. Before I ask for an adjournment, I'd like to ask Ms. Devine to explain this wonderful bouquet of roses that have graced your seat at the dais. What's that all about?
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank my husband. It is my birthday today, and he decided to, thank you. Thank you very much. 39 in a few months, in case you're wondering. But I just wanted to thank him very much. he's quite a guy, a wonderful man, and I'm very, very blessed to have him in my life. So thank you.
That's so sweet.
Right.
That's a high bar that he's setting for the rest
That's
of
right.
us to achieve, at least for me.
Take heed.
Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
New business, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes, we do have new business. Mr. Garpetian.
Yeah, before I go to the new business, I want to wish my colleague a happy birthday, and Art, you scored big tonight. Good job. With that, I move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to initiate an indemnity legal action in Los Angeles Superior Court. The names of the defendants and the other particulars shall be disclosable upon the filing and service of said action upon the cross-defendant. The city attorney is further authorized to incur any and all expenses necessary in connection with said matter.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Is there any other new business?
No, sir.
That concludes our business for the evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.